My name is Margarita Díaz-Andreu. I am an ICREA Research Professor based at the University of Barcelona. I am the principal investigator of the Artsoundscapes project. It's an ERC project with a full title of The Sound of Special Places, Exploring Rock Art, Soundscapes and the Sacred. This is a project in which we are looking at three major components and how they interact with each other: rock art, the sacred and sound. If we look at the two first components, the relationship between the two first components, rock art and the sacred, and we look at what we know nowadays about this relationship, we know that many of the places with rock art depict mythological beings, or as we know because of anthropology or ethnographic accounts, they depict mythical scenes. And we know that there is these places are considered special in the communities that have produced them or use them nowadays. They are still in some of these places that some rituals are produced. So we know that there is a strong relationship between rock art places and the sacred. What about rock art and sound? We know because of previous projects that we have undertaken here and that other researchers have done in other parts of the world, but ourselves with the Sonart project. This is a project, a Marie Curie project with Tommaso Mattioli, with Dr. Tommaso Mattioli. We measured the acoustics of some places of rock art landscapes in the Western Mediterranean, and we were able to demonstrate that in some places with where rock art was depicted, had been made in some places but not in others, the reason for that had to do with acoustics, with perhaps with more echoes in that place, in the shelters that had been painted, or a better reverberation. So we know that at least in some areas of the world there is this connection between rock art and sound, and that it is a connection that we also know because of ethnographic sources. What about sound and the sacred, and also their relationship with rock art? Some of these places, the beliefs that are about these places are connected to mythological beings that make noise or that live within the mountain, for example, and we know about them because of the sound that they make. For example, this is a way in which the echoes are interpreted by some communities, and it's because of the echoing properties of particular places that these are connected to the house of the spirits, and that's why these shelters are painted, and this is why these places are considered special. In our project, we are going to work not beyond the Western Mediterranean, in the Western Mediterranean, but also beyond it, and we are going to undertake field work in Siberia, in the Sonoran Desert. That's an area that includes the northwest part of Mexico and southwest part of the US. We are going to undertake some field work in Namibia as well, and we are going to do this obviously with the help of a specialist, rock art specialist in the area, and also we are going to be doing this, so we are going to take into account the local communities that live in those areas. These measuring the acoustics in these places have several challenges, not only because of the amount of parameters that we are adding to those we already worked with in the Sonat project, but in the Artsoundscapes project we are adding new parameters, acoustic parameters like speech intelligibility or music intelligibility as well, or envelopment and all other and some other parameters. The equipment is again something, a new element that we have to think very carefully, because these are challenging landscapes where we will be doing our field work, and we cannot use basically the equipment that is usually used to measure sort of modern buildings. We are not in our landscapes are much more challenging. In addition to measuring acoustics and fieldwork, we are going to have, or the Artsoundscapes project has a research line that is psychoacoustics. Psychoacoustics is relates to measuring or studying, analyzing how people feel by listening sounds in the conditions that we are going to measure in the fieldwork. So what we are going to do is to reproduce the acoustic conditions that we find in the rock art places, and we are going to ask people, participants, to tell us how they feel and how they feel about what they are listening to. Then we are going to have another research line in the project that is going to be about neuroacoustics. Neuroacoustics relates with the way in which the brain reacts to sounds produced, in our case, in the places where the rock art has been produced. This is these two research lines, psychoacoustics and neuroacoustics, are some of the more innovative aspects of our research, given that not much work has been done in these two areas, and I think that there is much to contribute. But there are also two fields in which there are obvious challenges to face, and many debates to resolve. A final element in this project relates with the search in archives and the rereading of the literature produced by ethnomusicologists, by missionaries, by anthropologists who have been undertaking their research among hunter-gatherers or early agriculturalist societies. And the need to go back to the sources is that anthropologists that have been interested in acoustics or sound, is usually music what they're interested with, but they haven't been really looking at what is the cultural interpretation of acoustics in the landscape, and this is our main concern. And this means that we really need to go back to the sources and search for this information. This will be a challenge because this is, for obvious reasons, there are all these sources pay much more attention to vision than to anything related to hearing, and they pay much more attention to what is going on in the dwelling area, in domestic spaces, than not in landscapes. So it'll be a difficult search, but one that we are really convinced that is needed. In the project, I am, as I said, the principal investigator. I have with me two senior scientists, Carles Serra, who is the head of the Brain Lab at the University of Barcelona, and who will be dealing with the psychoacoustics and neuroacoustics side of the project, together with myself. And regarding the physical acoustics aspect of the project, we have Professor Angelo Farina from the University of Parma, who is a major specialist in the field. We have managed to put together a group of young post-doctoral and predoctoral research students who will be working hard to work on this project, to take this project ahead. And we have 5 years in front of us. We are hoping to be able to contribute in a very innovative way, in sort of looking and talking about how those communities that produced the rock art were considering acoustics as one of the important components for the production and use of rock art.